I mean, it's a good way just to run your life. It makes life more enjoyable, all those things. But, there's not an immediate ROI necessarily. But long term, these sorts of things, you are tending to the garden and, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, these things are just going to be producing fruit everywhere. And you're going to just enjoy it along the way. I think that's a really smart thing to do. And it sounds like it just sort of came natural for you. And you just like being around people and talking to folks.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you're right. I mean, the garden itself, just by doing that, will give fruit itself. And, if it's just a pretty little flower that you can't eat, fine, it's all good. You made a good difference in this person's life. They had a good experience, because when I go to trial and I ask juries about what's been your experience with plaintiff lawyers, if you hired a firm, maybe 60 to 70% of the time of those who have hired plaintiff lawyers, it's probably like neutral to closer to negative than positive.
Welcome to the Founding Partner Podcast. Join your host, Jonathan Hawkins, as we explore the fascinating stories of successful law firm founders. We'll uncover their beginnings, triumph over challenges, and practice growth. Whether you aspire to launch your own firm, have an entrepreneurial spirit, or are just curious about the legal business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Founding Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hawkins. This is a podcast where I get to interview founding attorneys and hear about all the cool stuff they're doing. And today we've got a great guest, Jason DeSouza, out of San Antonio, Texas. He is primarily, I'll call him a personal injury lawyer, but he's got some little niche areas that we're going to dive into. And he's sort of off the beaten path a little bit in terms of the geographic area that he covers as well. We'll dive into that. So, Jason, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
So, where are you located? I guess you're based in San Antonio, Texas, but you cover, I'll let you describe it.
Sure. So I've got a firm. We started in 2015, personal injury trial law. I handle litigation exclusively. Our office is in San Antonio, but I found a little niche serving small communities south of San Antonio. So if you're kind of familiar with Texas, we go down to the Coastal Bend area, the Corpus Christi area, and then kind of like float down the middle of Texas, the bottom middle of Texas, between San Antonio and the Mexican border. And it's a great niche. I kind of call it the Dairy Queen niche, because we're helping people in small towns where a lot of the plaintiff firms are all kind of based in the big towns, and they're all trying to fight for all that business there.
Great strategy. It's great strategy. You go to the blue ocean instead of the red ocean, right?
Yeah. And, I'd love to say it was my idea, but I had a great paralegal. She passed away last year of breast cancer, and she was from a little town in Freer, Texas. And so that's kind of where I thought it up after getting so much business out of there.
Oh, wow. Well, cool. Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit, but let's back up, man. So
sure.
I want to go back to the beginning. So, let's start with this. Are you from Texas?
No. So I'm from Toronto. My wife's from Michigan, and I went to school in Michigan, Cooley Law School. And so one day I'm walking from my car to the library, and the weather's coming in horizontally, just coming in, all of it, the slush and the wind and the water and the rain and all of it. And I didn't, and being from Toronto, I'm kind of used to the bad weather. And I was like, I got to get out of here, man. I need like 1 year out of here. And so there were a bunch of states that Jessica and my girlfriend at the time, Jessica, and she's now my wife, we talked about moving to for just a couple of years, North Carolina or Nevada or California, Texas. And we just we were like, let's move to Austin. We'll go to Austin. That's where, that's where the cool kids go to, and we'll go there. And then we're like, damn, Austin's expensive and we're broke. So we'll go to San Antonio and we'll hang out there for a little bit, and then we'll move to Austin. But we fell in love with San Antonio. I mean, it's a great town. It's so like below the radar. People are amazing here. Food is great, friendliness. And so we've just been here since 17 years now, since 2009.
Did you know anyone before you moved?
We didn't know anybody, dude. We didn't know anybody. My dad's got a couple cousins in Dallas. Dallas is a 5-hour drive from here, so it's not that close. So we didn't know anybody. We didn't know anybody in Austin. We didn't know anybody in San Antonio. And so we're like, I got you and you got me, and so we'll just move down there and we'll figure it out. And our worst case scenario was we move back home. What's the big deal? So what? The experiment didn't work. Not a big deal. We got to live in Texas for a little while, and we'd move back home. So, it wasn't a problem.
I love that. I love the idea of just going somewhere and trying it. I've done that a few times in my life. It's been a long time. I got an itch now, but I've got kids in school, so they're not leaving at this point. So, but I assume at that point you didn't have kids, and so you were sort of free to go wherever you wanted.
We didn't have anything going on. I made a point to propose to Jessica in September of 2009 because I was working at the bookstore in law school. And all the women I worked with at the bookstore that were in law school working there, they were like, it was either he put a ring on my finger, so yeah, I moved with him, or no, he didn't put a ring on my finger, so I was like, unless I get that ring, I'm not going to move. So I was like, okay, let me make sure I get that ring on there so she feels a little bit safe, and then we'll give it a shot. No kids, just debt, no kids.
Yeah, that's a big baby you got to take care of. But
yes.
Okay, so you moved to Texas after you graduated law school. Did you work in Michigan at all, or was you graduated and moved straight down there?
So because I was Canadian, I could only work in the law school. So I worked at the bookstore for a short period of time, and then apart from that, no, I'd never worked. I did unpaid work. So I guess I volunteered at a union, AFSCME. And that was great experience, actually. I mean, it was really good. I loved working for the working man. I got to see how unions operate, how employers operate. I had a great friend in law school. He's in California now working for AFSCME. And I mean, he got me into AFSCME so I could see the arbitration process. And I got to be part of a couple ARBs, and that was cool.
So you go down to San Antonio. You don't know anybody. Did you have a job lined up, or did you just go down there and say, I'll figure it out when I get there?
Yeah, I just knew that I had to write the ethics exam and pass it, and that came up in 2009. And then I knew that I was scheduled to write the bar in February, and I knew that my bank had given me a bar prep loan. And so I was like, okay, well, I got, X amount of dollars for this bar prep loan, and I'll just budget it. And we didn't know anybody. And what sucks about being broke is that it really gives you very little choices about things. So there was about a month in time where we'd run out of money. So Jessica and I were donating our plasma just to make some extra cash. Yeah, and I'd never done that before. She'd never done it before. And then they just take so much out of you with plasma. And we got home and we'd lost the money, but they had the plasma. So it was like, oh man, this is. And so I remember telling her at the time, I was like, it's okay. We were upset at each other, and I was like, it's okay. These are the good times. Remember the good times.
Well, I'll tell you, if you make it through that, that's going through the trenches together. All right. So what was your first law job down in San Antonio? Was it at a firm, or did you have to just open up shop?
So my wife found work first, and she started working in January of 2010 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And so where we lived in San Antonio, we were just living off the freeway, and so she'd have to drive about maybe 6 exits to her job. And there was a guy who had a little electronic billboard, and he would advertise tax litigation. And so Jessica saw it one day, and she's like, so there's this guy on this exit here, and you should go, apply. And I was applying to a whole bunch of different places and that type of thing. And so I went there, and I was like, hey man, I saw your electronic billboard that you do tax lit, and taxes aren't ever going to go away, so I'm your guy. And so he was like, all right, you're my guy. I'm going to give you 25 of the worst cases I have in the firm that are not even tax lit. They're just my tax clients who have some sort of problem with something else, some derivative nonsense that's going on. But he's like, you're going to get great experience. You're going to love it. You'll get this headache off of my desk so I can make more money fighting the IRS. And so I was like, all right, man, I guess I have no choice. I mean, I had a choice, but it put me in the courtroom. It put me in depositions. It put me in hearings. I mean, I was loving it. It was a good time. It was fun. And so I worked there for about 1.5 years. And then I realized I wanted to get into PI because one of his clients was a PI lawyer. And so I was privy to the books, and I was like, man, these guys are making a lot of money. They're pretty stupid with what they're doing with their money, particularly not paying the government. But there's obviously money in this line of work, and you can always use a trial lawyer, that's for sure. So that's when I kind of got the idea rolling of getting into personal injury.
So you learned a couple things. One, it's a good business to get in, and two, you better pay taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Switch those. Pay your taxes. Good business.
There you go. Okay, so before you left, or let me ask, did you leave the tax litigation firm to go start your own firm?
No, so I actually ended up going to work for a small, so the first guy I worked for, he was a one-man shop. And then I went to go work for another firm that were 2 or 3 lawyers, and I was there for about 2 years. And then in 2013, I was like, okay, well, let me go work for this big advertising firm. So I worked for them, and they're the biggest injury firm in Texas. I think they're maybe only number two behind Morgan and Morgan. And I think I was lawyer when I started there. I must have been lawyer 40, and when I left after 2 years, I was lawyer 80. And I think they've got like up to 300 lawyers now. So they're a behemoth, dude. Yeah,
Just
dude,
Texas? Where are they?
yeah, all just in Texas, just spread throughout Texas.
That's a big plaintiff's firm.
Yeah, dude, it's really big, and they are the gorilla on the block, man. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, so I figured I worked there for 2 years at that last big firm, and I think what happened is with every like businessman or business person or entrepreneur, they have this thing where, hey, I could do it better than these guys. And so initially, I started off by pitching my supervising attorney my ideas, and she was a nice enough lady, but she was terrified that she was going to get fired. And so every time I'd pitch her something and was like, I got the whole thing out, like planned out, she'd be like, Jason, you got a docket, and if you do that, I'm going to fire you. And so she threatened to fire me 4 times. And on the 4th time, where it was just this idea of how to subpoena medical bills and records and get causation from the orthopedic surgeons, I was like, you know what? It's all good. You don't need to fire me. I'll be gone in 3 days. And so that was the start of 2015. And I was like, I'm going to bet on myself that I could do it better. And if the bet doesn't pan out, it's fine. Not a big deal.
So it's interesting. I'm going to ask, are you an entrepreneur? And part of just being an entrepreneur is being willing to take risks and bet on yourself. I mean, moving to San Antonio and not knowing anybody, that's a big marker. That is a flag that says this guy's willing to take risks. And I'm curious, I did some research for this, and I believe your parents immigrated to Canada. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, from India.
So you are a child of immigrants. And I've always, this country, the U.S., maybe Canada too. I mean, you have all these people that self-select and immigrate over here. They leave their country, they don't speak the language, and they still do it. There's got to be something in their DNA that just, they're willing to take risks. I think that's why this country is so entrepreneurial, because of the people who have come here over the years. It's built into our DNA. So I'm wondering, when you think about your life and where you got it, do you attribute it to that? Were you born with it? Were you taught it? Have you given much thought to that?
Yeah, I mean, because I've lived it. And so just by short background, my dad, so when I was in college, a buddy of mine in college and I got together, and we kind of scraped together like a little bit of like cash that we had, and we bought a house, and my dad agreed to carry the mortgage on that house. And it was like a 3-bedroom ranch style house, and in Canada they have basements. And so we renovated the basement, added 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and then from our second year on in college, we lived for free because we rented it out. And so at that point, my dad was like, because even before then, I'd been angling, and I'd been like telling him a lot of stuff like, I'll mow lawns and I'll make some money, and I'll shovel driveways and I'll make money, and I'll do this. And I had these ideas. And so he finally saw it when I was in college, and he was like, so just so you know, he goes, your great-grandfather was a cobbler in India, and he had his own cobbling shop. And he goes, your grandfather was a mechanic engineer in India, and he had his own shop. And he was like one of the first Indians who'd either converted a gas engine to diesel or diesel to gas, one of those things. And then he goes, and my father and my uncle, his brother, they owned a machine shop, a tool and die shop in Toronto from '87 until they retired in 2019. And he goes, this constant itch that you always have, and this constant thing that you always have going on, it's there. And then after that, while I was in college too, I also started like an entertainment lighting thing. And like the lights for concerts and theaters and movies and stuff. And so I would just try to market it to various businesses where they could customize these lights, and they would flash in grocery stores or flash in businesses or flash at clubs or whatever. And that failed. That fell flat in his face. But I think, yeah, I've always had that. But having said that, I never wanted to start my own firm. Like if somebody had been like, hey, just so you know, 5 years in, this is the level of BS that you're going to be dealing with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I passed, dude. I'm all set. I'm good.
That's so true. So true. For the people out there who have started their firm and have started to grow it or have grown it, that is just, unless you've gone through it and had to deal with all that stuff. I mean, it's all sorts of stuff. I mean, you got clients coming at you, you got employees coming at you, you got employees coming at each other that you got to deal with, all these sorts of things. And yeah, you just sort of have to, I think you just have to experience it to fully get it. Okay. So you've got, I mean, I think you've got it in your DNA, man. It's in your history. You were always starting these businesses. So eventually I think it was your destiny. Probably you were going to start this firm. So 2015, you said, all right, I'm going out, I'm doing it. Let me ask this. Did you have cases? Did you take cases with you, or did you start from scratch?
So I didn't take any cases with me. I had started kind of building them up in the middle of 2014. I had a partner, and he was in Houston, and so I'd met him. I knew him in a little bit in law school, studied for the bar together, and he was in oil and gas. In 2014, oil and gas in Texas and nationwide is tanking. So he's trying to get out of it, and he's like, man, I hear there's a lot of money in PI. So we kind of started signing some cases up, and he would like kind of handle them in Houston. And then like my D-Day was January 1, 2015. And so we had a docket built up, nothing in litigation per se. And our agreement was he would handle pre-lit and I would handle lit. And like 2 months into it, he was like, dude, we can't do this. And so he packed all my stuff up in Houston and changed the locks and drove it to San Antonio and was like, hey, we're done. And I was like, oh, damn. Well, and at the time, it's 2015. So at the time I had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. And I was like, shit, dude, I just like bet everything on myself. And now you're telling me that it's all over. And I'd also put a bunch of money into his Houston office. And so anyway, him and I just sorted our differences out, and there were some cases that I kept. And then I was like, no, I'm still going to bet on myself because I still know that I could do this better. It's just a setback. And, by that point, already 2 months in, I'd been dealing with a bunch of stuff already. And I was like, this is not like, so I took a paralegal with me, Shelly, the one who passed away last year. And when I took her with me, she told me, she goes, I mean, it'll just be like how it is now at Tom's office, but it'll just be you and I handling a docket. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's probably exactly what's going to be. 2 months in, nothing like that at all. And so I was like, whatever, man, this is just a setback and we'll figure it out and it's all good. And it's number one big lesson learned. So I just kept working the cases on my own and I kind of had more control, and it ended up being a wonderful blessing because, I think for trial lawyers, they just kind of need to have a certain level of control if they believe that they have the best secret sauce.
I'll tell you, partnerships are hard. They're hard. I mean, I deal with that a lot. That's my day job. It's interesting. I mean, I can't believe it. You don't have to go into the details, but 2 months in, he's like, yeah, come. All right, it's not going to work. That's insane. I mean, that's insane. I've seen a lot of insane stuff. That's pretty insane. But so anyway, okay, yeah. So then you're like, all right, you're like, what do I do? And you're like, all right, I'm going to go for it. So then you had to figure it out. So maybe you had a few cases with you, and then you had to figure out how to get cases. So take me through that early on. You had your paralegal and you started over, and then you immediately started over again. You got to go find cases. What'd you do?
Well, she's from this little town called Freer, Texas. It's in Duval County, and her family is really, really well known. So this was just like a real blessing and a stroke of luck that she even had started with me. And when she was first began as my paralegal in 2013 at the prior firm, I didn't know any of her history. I didn't know any of the history of Duval County and how plaintiff-friendly Duval County is. And so she told me point blank, she was like, look, Jason, I know a lot of people know me. When things happen, they always want to know who I should call. Somebody wants to get divorced, they call Shelly. Somebody gets into a crash, they call Shelly. Somebody wants to do a will done, they call Shelly. So she's like, people have been calling me like all these years, and I just like always farm it out to somebody else. And so they just start calling. And so I just made a point from the beginning, even like from day one, the beginning of January 2015, that I would meet with all the clients in person. If I had to drive 2 hours to Duval, if I had to drive 3 hours to Houston, if I had to drive up to Austin, whatever, I would drive, I'd sit down, I'd visit with them. I did it at my prior firm. I'd done it since like day one. I was just like, this is the essence of business, which is face to face, And so I just would meet, I'd sign people up in person. I'd drive 2 hours to Duval County. I'd drive the 2 hours back. I'd sign them up. I'd go over their case. And so what happened is, unknowingly, because nobody ever told me that that's like really like the secret sauce to getting a lot of clients, is people love that, man. I mean, people are just so all about the face-to-face meetings and the talking face-to-face and meeting your lawyer and knowing what your case is all about and getting a roadmap and what the expectations are. So, one client begat another, and we just kept kind of like growing that way. And so another client would be like, hey, my buddy just got into a crash and, they want to hire you and all. And I was like, okay, let's go. Like, where do they live? Okay, I'm going to be there. I'm going to leave right now. I'll be there in 2 or 3 hours. I'll drive there, and I would just be back, and I'd turn around and I'd be home that night. So it was a number of years until I like stopped doing that. I think it was like the first 5 years I would do that for every single case, whether it was a trucking case or a non-commercial case or an oil field. It didn't matter. Like, I was going to do that no matter what. And then my time, unfortunately, just got so chewed up, and the exhaustion of driving like all the time got to me. So I stopped doing that. But I've started kind of picking that up of late, where once the client signs up with me, I still continue, and I've started this again starting in 22. I still will have Zoom calls and telephone calls with 5 to 6 clients every week, just so they know who I am, they know who they've hired, they feel that the boss is talking to them about their case, they feel important, they are important, and they know what to do with their case and what to expect.
So I want to dig into that. I'd heard you talk about that in another place, and I really want to dig into that because I think that is genius for lots of reasons. But before we get to that, let's talk about what's your firm like now. I think you have like 30 people. How many attorneys versus non-attorneys? What's the setup of your firm?
I want to say we got about 30, and I did a count yesterday in our company meeting. I think we've got 9 attorneys. We had maxed out, I think we got to a total number of about 37 people overall by the start of the year. And I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I do not have a desire to get up into the more this thing grows, the more it owns me. And I've got a big thing about like consent, just like consent of how you run your life, autonomy, agency, am I going to run my life, or is my phone going to run my life, or is my, are my possessions going to run my life, or I want to be able to have control over my life. And so the machine was getting too big, and the machine was starting to spin me versus me being kind of at the center. And so, just the natural turnover of things, people would leave, and I was like, all right, we're not going to replace them. We're going to be more selective with cases. The advertising will still continue. So we've got about 30 people, 9 lawyers. We're in the process. I've just taken on my own docket. It's only 10 cases, 10 big commercial cases. My partner, Lucas, he's got his own docket, and he's in the process of kind of shrinking his docket down also. His goal is to get to about 15 cases. So that's kind of our current strategy right now, which is, just be a little bit more selective and keep the personal touch going because it just works so well for us.
A lot of wisdom and insight in that for sure. I mean, it's everybody out there to grow, scale. And I mean, look, there's some excitement to that. It sounds exciting, but when you get to the reality, it's not always as exciting as it sounds. And you've sort of been through that, and you made the conscious decision, which is cool. I like that. And let me make sure. So you're primarily a trial firm, right? Or do you is there a pretty big pre-suit element to your firm?
So we've got a really good lawyer on the pre-suit department, but even on that side of things, she's a trial lawyer, and I've told her, I've said, hey, look, if you think that you can settle a pre-suit and they're being fair to the client, fine. Otherwise, file it, get a new adjuster, let it kick around a little bit, and let them talk some sense into themselves, and then get it settled. But if even cases on her docket, there was a dog attack case on her docket, and they offered us $250 with $8,000 in meds. And just because they were in a great county south of Dallas, I was like, well, I mean, what are we supposed to do with that? How is that fair to the client? She ended up trying a banger of a case. I wasn't with her, but another lawyer went with her. They tried a banger of a case. They split the liability 50-50. The jury gave us meds, and the homeowners were completely dumbstruck because they thought they were just going to pour us out in this super conservative county. Our client was I want to say like Ecuadorian or South American immigrant, and they thought they were just going to like walk all over us, and it didn't happen. So, I mean, we've always got the threat of trial, but at the same time, the client's best interest is always to be reasonable. That's the client's best interest, even on my docket, on the lit docket, no matter what, anybody's docket, your client's best interest is reasonability. And so that's what we guide ourselves with.
And a minute ago, you mentioned advertising. So do you advertise? Is it digital? Are you on billboards or on the radio? What kind of stuff do you do?
Yeah, so my wife, and this is the other reason, I mean, I'll give credit to my wife because she's phenomenal. I tried to get her to join the firm for a lot of years. She was working in the nonprofit field and she was just loving it. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I guess, enjoy it. Enjoy what you want to do. In 2021, they did a reorg at her company and they sliced off the top half. And so she was in the top half, and they were just like, "Hey, we're going to give you 6 weeks severance, healthcare, Cobra, etc." And so then she joined another nonprofit, didn't like it at all. And so I said, "Okay, come on board, because I need somebody to be able to keep eyeballs on numbers, because otherwise, like, I'm staring at the bank sheet and the numbers all day long. And unless, in my opinion, I just need somebody who I know I could trust, making sure that the numbers and the money is taken care of, because there's so much money coming in and out of the firm." And so she handles the finances. She also handles the marketing. And so our marketing strategy is that we do a lot of billboards. We've gotten in the past 6 months kind of heavy into TV advertising when the Spurs are playing and during the news. And one of the things we've always done is community involvement. So I started with Christmas giveaways in one town in Freer, where we bring Santa and gifts and games and food and drinks and photos and all kinds of stuff. And now in the past 5 years, we've expanded it. So now we do an Easter giveaway, we do the Christmas giveaway, and on the 25th of July, we're going to do, so in a few days, next week, we're going to do a backpack giveaway, where this year we're giving away 650 backpacks. If the school needs us to fill the backpack, we'll stock it. Otherwise, we'll put whatever, kind of stuff the kids want. And then we also do additional giveaways there. And that's another thing that keeps me in the community and shaking hands and meeting people and letting them know that I'm a real dude and that I want to be in your small town. I desire to be there. I want to be part of what you guys do. I want to help you guys succeed. I want your success is my success. And the better you guys do, the better I do. And I want to make sure you guys are doing great.
Real quick, if you haven't gotten a copy yet, please check out my book, The Law Firm Life Cycle. It's written for law firm owners and those who plan to be owners. In the book, I discuss various issues that come up as a law firm progresses through the stages of its growth, from just before starting a firm to when it comes to an end. The Law Firm Life Cycle is available on Amazon. Now back to the show. All right, so I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. So you're kind of famous around there, right? Do you go out to a restaurant and people are like, "Hey, it's you, it's Jason." Do they want to get pictures and all that?
So, fame, it's funny because minor fame is kind of new to me because nobody really knows. I'm just a lawyer in San Antonio, right? So I don't do any advertising here. But I go to some of these places. Sometimes I'll get comped coffee, or my food at a gas station will be free, or I see that my pens are in use over there and people recognize me. I'll be at the courthouse. I was at the courthouse last week in Duval, and the bailiff was telling me how much he loved my oilfield commercial, and he was doing the thing that I do at the end, which is I say something and I kind of do the finger gun. And he was like, "Man, I love that commercial." And I was like, "Man, you guys are so great, dude. I love you guys so much, man."
Yeah. And so, and this is all coming back to the 5 clients a week calls that you do. So, you're sort of famous, especially for them. And then you're probably not are you calling people on cases that you're not directly involved in?
Oh yeah. If they're signed by the firm, I'm talking to them for sure. Oh yeah.
And so it's probably a treat for them. I mean, number one, they're like, "Okay, we hired the firm. You're the face of the firm. It's great that you're checking in on us." I assume that the reaction and the feedback has been really good.
People like it. I know. I guess I still get treated by clients the way that I had always been treated by them. But I can tell you that they really like that we keep our word about things. They really like that I'm the one that's letting them know what the word is. And I have staff on the call also. They like that I have a mind for their case versus just being the pretty guy on the billboard, And so they like that the boss knows that the boss is involved in this case in some way, shape, or form. And they get my cell phone number too. And I'm like, "Look, for any reason you can't get a hold of somebody at my office, I guarantee you that's not going to happen. But if for any reason that doesn't happen, just shoot me a text, man. Just send me a text. Let me know how you're doing. Check in with me and let me know what you need. And I'll make sure that gets routed to the right person and you're taken care of." So there's always going to be a backstop where the buck will stop right here with you no matter what.
So it really, and part of where I'm going with this too is it really binds the client to the firm. And, one area that I do a lot of is sort of lawyer separation, fights over cases and clients. Somebody leaves and they're like, "I'm taking the clients." If you have never worked on their case and never talked to them, it's going to be harder, not impossible, but harder for the client to say, hey, I want to stay with Jason. If you're doing these calls and checking in on them, again, you're binding them to the firm. I don't know if you've experienced that yet, but if you haven't, keep doing what you're doing, because that is a really good idea, at least for that. For lots of reasons. For that reason, you're binding the client to the firm, not just some attorney that might leave. And then, of course, they like you, and then they're going to start referring their family and friends and all these things. Have you experienced all of those things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you say that, because when you asked me whether I took some cases with me from the last firm, I didn't do that, but I took clients with me. So I kept the cases over there, but they got kicked over to another lawyer. Their case settled, they got money, but inevitably something else came up where their friend or their family, and they had my number, and they were like, Jason, I didn't want to talk to anybody over there. I just know you. I mean, I had one of my first clients. It was a med mal case where it was an improper oophorectomy, and she couldn't find me at the last firm, and she told me she asked for me at the firm, she looked for me online, she called the state bar, she went through heaven and hell to find me. And I remember I was on a drive coming back from Houston to San Antonio when she finally got a hold of me, and she was like, Jason, I looked for you everywhere. I just had this oophorectomy, I'm still bleeding, it's happened for this long, and I didn't want to talk to anybody else but you. And she still is in contact with me, and she's probably going to help us out with the backpack too. So I think you're absolutely right. It's a great way to it's also a great way to make friends and meet people and have people look out for you too, I think.
And just along it, and I bet you get a ton of good Google reviews, I'm sure.
we have a lot. Yes, we have a lot. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good way just to run your life. It makes life more enjoyable, all those things. But, there's not an immediate ROI necessarily. But long term, these sorts of things, you are tending to the garden, and, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, these things are just going to be producing fruit everywhere. And you're going to just enjoy it along the way. I think that's a really smart thing to do. And it sounds like it just sort of came natural for you, and you just like being around people and talking to folks.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're right. I mean, the garden itself, just by doing that, will give fruit itself. And, if it's just a pretty little flower that you can't eat, fine, it's all good. You made a good difference in this person's life. They had a good experience, because when I go to trial and I ask juries about what's been your experience with plaintiff lawyers, if you hired a firm, maybe 60 to 70% of the time of those who have hired plaintiff lawyers, it's probably neutral to closer to negative than positive. And so when you're having this terrible experience in your life, an amputation or death in the family, or a bad back injury or neck or whatever, maybe this is going to help out a little bit more,
The other thing, I've experienced it personally, lots of lawyers I've talked to, we think we were in this client's life in a really difficult time, and we helped them through whatever it was they're going through, lawyers of all types. And then you realize after a couple of years, they forget your name. They forget your name. I was talking to a guy, a couple of years ago, we were talking about this, and he said he was in line, DMV or wherever, and he was talking to somebody who was in some sort of lawsuit, and he's like, oh, I'm a lawyer. Who's your lawyer? Because he just wanted to know who it was. And the client was like, I don't even know his name in the middle of a case. So, yeah. Well, that's another thing you mentioned. I don't know if we talked about it much, but you briefly mentioned the oil field cases. And so I was really interested in that. What are oil field cases? How are they different than other types of cases?
Okay, so I guess for the trial lawyers out there, I'll start with being technical. If you think of a jury charge, they could be active negligence, negligent activity. They could be premises liability. They're going to be respondeat because you got a company involved. So that's kind of the technical aspect of it. But the practical aspect of it is, sometimes these guys are doing maintenance on a rig, and they may fall from, if there's a derrickman, they may fall from the platform, or they may get injured as a result of the use of the rig, or there's something they're doing. But it could be an explosion where an oil field guy gets burned. It could be, explosions, could be workovers, could be amputations as a result of using certain equipment. It could be, could be somebody drives into them on the site. It's generally any number of things, but what I find fascinating about it is that you've got engineering involved, because you've got construction involved, you've got medical involved, obviously because of the injury. and you've got also potential products liability involved as well. I think there's a huge products liability aspect. And I'm a member of AIEG, which is for Plaintiffs Product Liability Lawyers. There's just a shameless plug there for them because it's a phenomenal group. And I tell those guys all the time, man, like there's a lot of products cases just sitting in the oil field, products malfunction, design defect, that type of thing. And so I found it interesting because with an 18-wheeler that rear ends a four-wheeler or a driver, you're going to sue the company, you'll sue the broker, you'll sue maybe the trailer, whatever they're hauling for, that type of thing. But it's kind of like a linear dimension, like A, B, C down the line. With the oil field cases, you've got different companies involved. You've got like the torque and test company, you've got the operator, you've got the workover rig, you've got the engineer, you've got the company man, you've got the landowner, because sometimes the landowners just want to sit there and watch the job happen. You've got the rental equipment companies, you've got the rigs that are coming and going. There's so many different companies involved. And so you get a really great choice of venues, that to start. In Texas, they've got a workers' comp bar where if you have workers' comp, you can't sue your employer unless there's a death resulting in gross negligence or there's an intentional injury. So usually the employer's out of it, but you're going to get a lot of other different companies involved in the mix. And the injury will be, the doctors handle the injuries, so that is fairly straightforward in my mind with how the doctors handle it. But the various theories that are available to you as a lawyer are really wide-ranging, and it's really enjoyable work. The other reason, too, is that there's just not a lot of lawyers handling oil field work because it's really scientific, it's really engineering-based, it's complex because of the number of companies involved. But that also means that the claims are low with the insurance companies. And so the reserves can be set a lot higher in terms of settlement. So, there's a lot of 18-wheeler lawyers here in Texas. They're phenomenal plaintiff lawyers. They're really good. But I'm sure they've noticed that it's a dogfight once they have surgery and you're trying to get like real good value on the case because there's just, progressives getting tagged left, right, and center, or AIGs getting hit all over the place because there's so many 18-wheelers on the road, and it's hard for the insurance companies to allocate so much funds toward all these settlements. And that's not really happening in the oil field space. It's not really even, for the products liability guys, you guys understand that it's also not happening in the products world just because there's just not that much competition because the field is so slim and the choices for good lawyers in those fields aren't really very wide-ranging.
It always fascinates me how lawyers sort of find these niche practice areas. I mean, I've got my own, and the seed of it was intentional, but what it's grown into was not. It just, things happened along the way. I'm curious how you found your way in the oil field cases. Was it you just got one and that was your first experience? You're like, wait a second, I need to try to get more of these, or was it something else?
It was Shelly. So Shelly from Duval County. And so she kind of introduced me to Duval County, and they drill a lot there. That's the Eagle Ford patch in South Texas. Most of the oil from Texas comes from the Permian Basin out in West Texas, but Eagle Ford has a good patch. So when she introduced me to Duval County, I realized that there's a lot of people in the oil field there. And then as I started getting the cases, I realized that I enjoy dogfights. I really do. I enjoy dogfights. I like being in the mix. A good dropping a punch or like even getting a punch delivered to me is all good. I'm fine with it. I don't mind protracted litigation. I don't mind trying a case. I had told my advertising guys who did my commercial, I was like, one of the things that bothers me the most in the oil field is the way that these companies bully their workers. I hate bullies. I can't stand them. I think they're cowards and I think they're weak. And I think the problem is that you've got these guys who don't even have a high school level education. They are working their asses off. They are working so hard in that 100, 110 degree heat. Nobody else wants to do it. They're risking their lives, they're risking life and limb, and they get injured. And the first thing that happens is you got a supervisor coming over to them saying, hey, why don't you go home for the day? And so they go home for the day, they come back the next day and they're like, oh my God, how did your clavicle get cracked? Were you drinking last night? You fell off the balcony? That didn't happen on the site. And if it did happen on the site, you file a claim, you're never going to work. It's never going to happen. You're going to get blackballed. And so I started realizing that is that I'd get these clients and they were just so afraid to talk to me. They're like, if somebody finds out I'm even talking to a lawyer, Jason, it's over. And the more I've gotten into it, I tell these oil field guys, I'm like, guys, I promise you, they cannot find people to work in the oil field. They can't find people to work in McDonald's right now. There's a shortage of office workers to work in offices. These guys in the oil field, there is a shortage of talent and hard work and grit that make the oil field so unique. And so when they try to push you around, all you have to do is just push back and say, hey, look, just call me. And if you don't even want me to notify, it's not like I have to send a trigger and notify the LOR right away, the companies. If you want to sit back and just get the treatment that you need, let's sit back and relax, man. It's all good. And then when you find that your company's going to screw you and they're going to fire you and they're not going to let you back on the job because you've got this bad injury, then we can open fire. But we could sit back. We've got 2 years to chill out, man. So let's just chill out. Let's just make sure your body gets good. Let me take care of you a little bit. Nobody needs to know that you've ever hired a lawyer at all. It's all good. So that's what kind of grew me in the space, was these guys need somebody who's strong. They need an advocate, and they need somebody who's not going to play games with these oil field companies, because they're just, man, they're pushing these people around, and it's just so wrong. It's so wrong, man. And so that's what really started growing it for me. It was just that like passion of like, I'm going to hit these guys back.
That's cool. So what is the Eagle Landing? What'd you call it?
Eagle Ford.
Eagle Ford, that area, and then you've got the other big batch of oil. Have you expanded over there geographically to cover the same type of cases?
You know, I tried it out. I tried getting into West Texas for about maybe 6 months to a year. And the problem is my system just doesn't work out there because there's no nonstops from San Antonio to Midland. So what was happening is I would go out there to meet, or I'd go out there to like scout the area or do an event or do something. And so much of it was I had to drive or take an Uber 75 minutes to Austin, fly there, spend the night there, do whatever I was going to do, visit with the client, and then come back. And I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made out there, but at the same time, again, like, who's controlling who at that point? Like, is the practice taking over, and like I'm just becoming like I got to get a private plane now just to fly back and forth? I'm like, I don't need all that, man. Like, we're small. We can control our own destiny and control our own growth. There's lots of work out there, and so it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah. So let's circle back. Your wife is now working with you at your firm?
Yes.
And
she's my CFO and CMO.
Okay, CFO, CMO. What's that like? Yeah. Be careful how you answer this, man, because she may listen. But
her office is next door.
It really, yeah. She's listening now. But that always fascinates me, and I know a lot of people that do this, and it works really well. But there is sort of the at work, at home line that sometimes people draw, sometimes they don't. They say we just all live it all day, every day. How do you guys make it work?
So I think it's like it's hard not to live it all day, every day. She's a worker bee, man, and I mean, like, she is a hard worker. She's on top of it. I've got 2 cell phones. One's a personal and one's a work phone. So when I get home from work, I'll park my car under the carport, and I leave my work phone in the car, physically outside of my house. And so then I have my personal phone inside the house. So that's like my version of separation. And she's pretty good with, for the most part, like kind of not like drawing me into it. So it's all good. She didn't want to join the firm, just like for full disclosure, because she was like, look, I know what your personality is like. You're like a bulldog, man. Like you get after it, and it's gonna F up our relationship. It's gonna screw up our things that we've got going. We've got a good thing going. And I was like, I need somebody. I just really do. Like, we're growing, things are happening. I just need somebody. So just start part-time. So in 22, she was here part-time. What I have found is, in the rare instances that we've had conflict, so for example, a real life example is maybe about 4 months ago, she was like, look, dude, we've got this chat, and it's the marketing chat. And I was in the marketing chat, her employees were. And she was like, you're just overrunning everything. Like, I'll say something, I'll ask somebody something, you'll answer, it's getting messy. And obviously everybody has to defer to you because you're the DeSouza on the door, not me. And so she was like, I'm losing control of it. I'm not enjoying it. I don't like it. And so we kind of had like a talk about it. And so as soon as she told me that, I let her finish. As soon as she finished, I pulled myself out of that chat, and I was like, I'm not trying to be like that guy. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm going to give you the silent treatment now and do nothing. I'm like, it's all good. I'm out. It's all good. You're the CMO. There's a reason you've got the title. You have to be able to handle your business. You're the CFO, but she doesn't question, like, when we're spending a bunch of money, when we've got to go spend like $1 million in total on a products case, she's not like, well, do you really need to pay that expert $50,000 for that phone call or something? You know what I mean? Like, she's not doing that. And she's respecting the commercial world that we live in. And so I was like, the only thing to do in a good marriage is to respect your partner and your wife. So I was like, well, I'm going to respect you then. And I'm just going to bounce out of it. And I was like, well, what do I do when I want like stuff, like if I want, like, I want to be on a podcast, and I want to talk to people and I want to do that. She's like, talk to me. Just talk to me. You just come to me. You come to me, Bubba, and you handle it through me, and I'll take care of it. And she has always kept her word, and I mean, here I am, so so that's what I do is I just roll over and I'm like, all right, it's all good. This is your world. It's all good.
Well, that's smart. I mean, as you grow a law firm and you bring in leadership that's not you, other leaders in the firm, whether it's your wife or somebody else, if you're constantly going in there and undermining them, it's not going to last. If they're in charge, you got to let them do it. So that's, number one, good for your marriage, but also just good for growing a team. I mean, you just got to do that kind of stuff. I want to circle back. You mentioned the 2 cell phones. So when did you start that? What led to that, man? That's a great idea. I love it. Because earlier you said you give all your clients your cell phone. I was like, oh, man, that's dangerous. But yeah, so tell me about the 2 cell phone system.
Yeah. So a buddy of mine was visiting me from Toronto in October of 24, right? And he's a big tech guy. And so we're drinking on the patio at my house and we're talking and I go, dude, I would love it if I could schedule texts on my iPhone. But Apple just isn't there yet. And he's like, whoa, look at this. And so he shows me this. And so that was like, I mean, giving candy to a diabetic, dude. Like I started scheduling texts just nonstop, like going out. So all weekend, what would happen is I wouldn't communicate with people on my thing. I had one cell phone at this time and it's my personal / work. And I'm scheduling texts to people's work phone all weekend, And so Monday morning, like boom, brrr, they're getting drilled 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And I kind of then came to realize, I was like, well, I'm never getting any downtime because I've got incoming texts coming and calls from clients and other people and friends and whomever. And so I'm never shutting off. And then because of that, my brain isn't resting on the weekend when everybody else is resting. I'm still going because I'm still scheduling these text messages. So I'm thinking about stuff nonstop. And sometimes you should just stop, like just stop and don't do. So maybe a year ago now, maybe a little less than a year ago, I was like, I talked to the COO and I was like, I need to have just a separate cell phone. So we've got a corporate plan. I was like, I'm just going to pay in and I'm going to get a separate cell phone. It'll be mine. It'll be my personal phone. And so that way I just get downtime. And, I mean, things can wait, right? Like, I mean, somebody will text me at 7 o'clock at night. I won't know because I'm inside. But when I get up in the morning and go to my car at 7 in the morning, I'm going over my text messages before I get to the office. It's all good. It's all good. We just need time. And so that's been really good. It's been really helpful. It's been good separate. I cannot, if there's a lawyer and you do not have a second cell phone, and you use like one for work and personal, like I cannot advocate this enough. It doesn't matter. It's $100 a month, $50 a month, $15 a month, Mint Mobile, who cares? Like it doesn't matter. Just get yourself a second cell phone and just like you will get a physical separation. And I promise within a month, it might even be like less than a month, weeks, sometimes even days, depending on the level of pressure you're under, you're going to notice a difference. And you will notice a difference in your anxiety. You'll notice a difference in your sleep. You'll notice a difference in your appetite. You'll notice a difference in your temperament. You'll notice the fact that like this thing that you have in your hand that you associate with work is no longer associated with work. And like your text box isn't constantly flashing. It's life-changing. I wish somebody had told me this years ago. It is absolutely life-changing. And like you should go like right now when you hear this, go to the cell phone store and just go buy a separate second line, second phone and do it now because it's life-changing. It's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Great idea. That's something I'm going to explore. But let me ask the practical reality. So how hard was it in the beginning? Were you tempted to run back out to the car? Oh, I got to check this one thing. How long did it really take for when you could be, I'm doing it? Or maybe you could do it from the beginning.
I think I wanted it so bad. I think I'd waited for so long and I was so overdue that it was like, it's all good. And I physically did not want that thing in my house anymore. Like it was just, I just don't want this in my house anymore. I don't want to continue going to it all the time. What's also funny is that I used to be like a big like Sunday afternoon stressor. So like my temperament would change Sunday afternoon. We'd get back from church, we'd go eat, come home, and then like I'd start like feeling it, And now, like, it's funny because last Sunday I was like, man, I feel cool, man. I feel real good, relaxed. Everything's all good. I ain't going to that car, that's for sure, because that's going to change it. But yeah, so for me, Jonathan, it was like it was the instantaneous thing, and I've done the same thing with email also, which I don't know how practical that is for a lot of lawyers, but 3 years ago I started it with email, and I hired an employee, and this employee, amongst her other duties, she just tackles my email. And so if there's something that is like really urgent that comes up, I'll get it like the really, really old school way where they'll print it out and stick it on my chair. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll write a note on it and send it back out. And so email was like the first step of decompressing and taking my life back as a lawyer.
I tell you, email's tough. It is the bane of mine and all of our existence. But it's tough. And I have friends and attorneys I know that have handed it off, but it is just so hard. It's hard for me. I don't know. It's really hard, but I know I need to do that in some form because they just come and they just like bombs, just coming all the time, just coming in. And when you need to focus on getting certain things done and you get these bombs coming in, just throws you off course. So yeah, that good advice is another cell phone, and have somebody manage your email. So let's shift back. We're running out of time here, but I do want to hit a couple more things before we get out of here. But you started with you and a paralegal. You grew as big as maybe 40 or so folks. You've shrunk a little bit. How has your role evolved as the firm has sort of gone on this journey? In the beginning, you were talking to all the clients, driving there, trying all the cases. What's your role in the firm like now?
Yeah. So there's a big development in my life at the start of June, but you're right, because before, like, I'm the guy ordering supplies for the office, and I'm the guy doing the bank runs, and I'm the guy trying the cases and meeting the clients. And so it kind of like mushroomed into me being the guy doing everything. And then it kind of like, well, there's lawyers to handle that stuff, and then there's staff to handle that stuff, and then there's my wife and my COO to handle that stuff. And so I was the managing attorney at my firm, during the whole time. And then at the beginning of June, so in April, there was a lawyer that left, great guy. He just decided, he wanted to go separate ways, which is all good. And so I started like participating more in the docket. And so after about like doing that a little bit more, being a guest star on people's cases on the docket, I just decided, I was like, I like miss being a lawyer. Unfortunately, I had never been able to fall in love with management as much as I have tried. I just cannot do it. I can't keep telling people and reminding people and doing all that like management stuff. It's not who I am as much as I've tried, and I've given it a long try. So the beginning of June of this year, myself and the COO spoke, and I was like, I'm going to take on a docket. It won't be any bigger than 10 cases. It'll be small. It'll allow me to just like focus and like laser focus on the theories of liability and the deponents and the discovery and the pleadings and all that other stuff. I'll have just a couple staff that work for me. I'll be on a small little island. A lot of the stuff can, if the lawyers want to talk to me about their cases and tune me in and let me know what's happening, that's all good. I trust them. I've been working with them for a long time, but again, I got to get back to the foundation and get back to the basics, because I found that the problem was, if I'm not part of the case, I'm just kind of the managing attorney, but then I show up to trial. So what's happening is now I am subject to somebody else's depositions. I'm subject to somebody else's pretrial rulings. I'm subject to, relationships between the attorney in my office and defense counsels. I'm subject to all of that. So like I can show up and I could try to big dog it all I want, but it ain't going to make a difference, because I'm not the one that's actually worked on that case for the past 2, 3, 4 years. And I just, it was like having a little rock in your shoe, just a real tiny little pebble, and it's just not quite right. You're just not walking just the right way. And so that's the most recent change I've come up with, where I'm just handing things off to more people to actually let them bloom or let them sink, and if they sink, hey, it's all good. You gave it a shot, you tried your hardest. It's not for everybody. Best of luck down the road, and we'll keep this thing going. But that's what I've started doing, and that's been really enjoyable too. Having a small docket, being able to focus. Not even all of that docket's in litigation yet, so the party hasn't even started. So it's just like those little things, and the ability to exercise control over your own life. I think that's what makes life worth living. Is that knowing that you can you can control how your day goes versus your day being controlled by somebody else and your life being controlled by somebody else.
Well, I love this. You've come full circle. So you started the firm, you went into law to practice law and help people. You built this firm and you got distance from actually practicing law and helping the folks. I mean, obviously your firm did that, so you had some role in that. But the other thing is you're true to yourself. You don't like it. You wanted to get back into casework, and the beauty is you have the ability to do that. So that's really cool, man. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because I mean, look, you got one life to live. It's your firm.
Yeah.
Design it the way you want it to be, and design it so your role is where you want it to be. So.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of times we're trying to, maybe as plaintiff injury lawyers, we're trying to, man, I got to get the biggest verdict, and I got to get the most clients, and I got to sign up the most this, and if that's not your track, you could be an 8-figure firm. We're able to be that level of firm, but you don't need to be a 100-person operation that's always turning and burning cases all the time. If that's how company A does it, that's how they do it. Do it the way that be true to yourself, right? Do it the way that you could do it.
Well, man, there's a whole lot more that I'd like to talk to you about. We'll have to do another episode. But this has been real fun. It's been fun getting to know you, man. This is, seriously, and I like what you're doing over there, and you seem to be enjoying it. Again, I mean, that's really cool. And to be able to move down to a town where you knew nobody and build a firm like this, it's really impressive, man. So congrats on building a firm like that. So thanks for coming on. I do want to say, before we get off, you got to make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you, and if they have cases they want to get you involved in or whatever, what's the best way for them? Which cell phone are you going to give them? Just kidding.
The one that I always answer during the day. That's the one you can get. No problem. Yeah, if you want to find us, just look up DeSouza Injury Lawyers online. You'll find us. I mean, it'll populate right away. If you want to shoot me a text, if you're a lawyer or you're a client, you want to talk some more, by all means. My cell phone number is 210-591-9777. I don't mind at all. We all get tons of spam callers, so trust me, it's no skin off my back. It's all good. Contact me or shoot me a text, and I'm happy to talk. I'd love to.
Jason, man, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Founding Partner Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also connect with Jonathan on LinkedIn and check out the show notes with links to resources mentioned throughout our discussion by visiting www.lawfirmgc.com. We'll see you next time for more origin stories and insights from successful law firm founders.